Today, we're going to be exploring a new industry that we've not really touched on before, the world of competitive video gaming, esports. So to help us get a bit of an insight into that industry, I'm joined by my guest, Liam Brown. So he's going to be telling us all about the industry, how it works, and what it's like to work within. He's also got some great tips for anyone who'd like to learn more and get involved in esports, kind of career paths that are available and what they get up to on day to day, really. We're also, of course, going to talk about leadership and the lessons that Liam has learned from his time in what is quite a different industry, one that is fast-moving, future-looking, and technology-driven. So this is going to be, hopefully, quite an interesting episode. This is Leading with Integrity, Leadership Talk, the podcast for first-time managers who are working in tech-driven businesses and teams and who want to be more effective, people-first leaders. Each week, you will learn the crucial strategies, mindsets, and practical tips that successful modern leaders follow to be engaging, ethical, and authentic managers who get the best from their teams. And we'll achieve all of this via weekly conversations with leaders, with leadership experts, entrepreneurs, and business owners, people who have already walked this path and have some amazing insights to share, with an added sprinkling of occasional solo episodes and some group chats where we'll have multiple guests. My name is David Hatch and I will be your host. And leadership has always been a passion for me. After a career spent in a series of small businesses during 15 years in the aerospace industry, 5 or 6 of those at the end of that career were in a space startup in the UK, so trying to launch satellites into orbit, very cool stuff. And through all of that experience, I learned that the secret to successful management is in the ability to apply great leadership. And in turn, the secret to great leadership, it's all about your integrity, putting people before profits.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Liam, thank you so much for joining me today. Not sure where you are, actually. Is it US or?
Yeah, so the Knights Esports Group is based out of the U.S. on the East Coast, outside of right inside of the city of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. So kind of honed in here. I live right in the city, and while a lot of esports teams in general are in a virtual environment, this is an entertainment industry that exists primarily virtually. What is really cool is that our strategic partners are larger sports organizations here in the city. So the Pittsburgh Pirates, which is a baseball team, the Steelers, which is an American football team, and then also Wiz Khalifa, the rapper, and his Taylor Gang, which is his rap and fashion company. And I'm located in the city, and I usually will go to help staff in-person events. I'm on the ground in all aspects of this. I'm the one explaining to, old parents that worked in welding for the longest time of what this industry is to their kids. That's like jumping up and down in excitement, So I'm at all levels of this, man.
Nice. Well, thanks for taking the time this morning for you, this afternoon for me, obviously, across the pond. Well, you've given us a bit of a taster there, but my starting point is usually let you introduce yourself and tell the listeners a bit about what you do, what gets you out of bed in the morning, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my name is Liam. I'm a corporate partnerships manager at the Knights Esports Group, and my responsibilities lie mainly around bringing people together in different circles. So making sure that we can act as an authentic representative of esports as a whole and act as a leader in this space, because one thing that we can get into later is that our organization has surpassed just competition and just being a competitive force in different titles like other esports teams. We very much act as a leader in the space, from tech development to esports event and tournament league organizing, as well as developing the overall path to pro environment, from going to amateur to a professional player, as well as providing that safe network to bring larger diversity and equity and inclusion efforts into esports and gaming in an authentic way. Right. So our efforts lie mainly in creating esports for all and bringing people together. And as a corporate partnerships manager, I look at our current sponsors and partners, and then I also look to the future and where we can bring greater brand representation into this and see what other brands are interested in building the space and getting in touch with that tech-minded, diverse 18 to 35 category who are looking for greater experiences, and we want to look and see who can provide those experiences, right? So that kind of gives a little bit of background on me and kind of a little bit of background on our esports organization as a whole.
Which begs the question, maybe it's an obvious one that you hear all the time. Apologies in advance if that's the case. How do you get into esports? Because it feels like, certainly for my generation, it feels like something where you just start playing video games and your hobby becomes your job. But surely it's not that simple.
Yeah, well, it can be from which points that you're looking at, right? So there's two sides to this. Obviously, I'm on the staff side and the corporate side. So this pathway can be relatively generalized, and applying for jobs on Indeed and LinkedIn and those kinds of things on the staff side, because this is a growing industry. We're always looking for people with all different kinds of specialized skill sets. So we need people in marketing. We need people that can build the stages that we're going to be competing on, right? We need lawyers to facilitate contracts. We need sports marketers. Every skill set under the sun on the corporate side and the staff side we need. And overall, developing your expertise, bringing that to an organization as far as job skills go, can be a little bit more specialized. And what I encourage them to do to get their start is that you can utilize different sources of, again, bringing people together in social media with sources like Reddit and Eventbrite. I see a lot of people do when they want to host gaming events that are a little bit bigger. So you can go on Eventbrite, organize an event, promote it on Reddit to your geographic location. And then you can do a lot of grassroots level marketing locally to develop those overall events with you and your friends, right? So that's one example of, and being overall experienced in current events and gaming as a whole. I've been a gamer since I was 8 years old, right? And we like people with a little bit of background on that side. Now, on the professional and the influencer and the talent side, recruitment goes after around 3 different areas. First one is going to be your overall skill at the gaming title in question. Whether you're a competitive player, professional level, or amateur, or you're just an influencer, people like to see the person that they're watching do well. Obviously, we like to see the fail compilations at the end of the year, the funny things. Yeah, but a majority of the time, we'd like to see you win. And we want to make sure that the organization or the team that you commit to, if you're not bringing them all the way to the championship stage, you're at least being a really potent force in the field. So that's number one as far as on the talent side of recruitment. Number 2 is going to be overall social following. So ideally, your fans are going to become our fans, right? That kind of mentality. And, the social following and your reach, and not just the overall number of followers you have, but the engagement rate itself. It's all well and good to have a large amount of followers, but they could be, worst case scenario, bots, but they could just be unengaged users, right? Who aren't going to convert, or they're not even going to like and comment. And then number 3, we're going to look at overall personality of the person in question, right? So are they cool, calm, and collect in interviews, or are they yelling all the time? And if they're yelling, is it a fun personality, or is it just like, okay, well, we need to turn down his microphone because he's saying some really horrible things, right? So on the staff side and the corporate side, we look for all kinds of different corporate skill sets as well as experience in gaming overall. And sometimes that comes in the form of an organization, creating those experiences with you and your friends or your community. And then on the talent side, we kind of look at those 3 characteristics when recruiting. That kind of gives you a lay of the land as far as how do you get into esports from a baseline level.
for you personally, I guess being a gamer since the age of 8, that answers that question as well.
Yeah, man. I used to play Madden and Tekken with my dad. My mom ended up stopping us playing Tekken because it was too violent. And then every day I would go, well, every week actually on Friday, my friend and we would trade games with each other in our backpacks. And, that's how I found Gundam, Dynasty Warriors Gundam, which was a really fun hack and slash game. And then from there, it was just like trying different games and just seeing what I vibed with. And thankfully I was able to find, Warhammer 40K Space Marine. That was it was really influential on me from like a storytelling perspective, as well as just like brutality of gameplay. And it really opened me up to other titles, which I was like, maybe I won't, maybe I'd be a little too violent, but like it opened my eyes to that. And I ported from that over to Skyrim. And then, I'm just constantly in a position now where I'd like to commit to research and understanding this overall field. So I do try to play different games when I can. And as far as my background in esports, we talk a little bit about communication and bringing people together. I found esports and something that this is like, I wanted to invest myself in this in my senior year of university. So relatively late in the game, and I had bounced around different career prospects in my time in university. And I'm no stranger to the, I don't know what to do with my life question. And I encourage nobody to give up. I want everybody to just keep on looking for their thing. And in my case, esports was my thing. I started getting in contact because I was in a tech internship with, over here in the States, we have this company called CDWG, and relatively larger tech provider for universities and office buildings. Yeah, and you need anything like chairs, desks, computers. And in my senior year, that was COVID. So it was the first year back in the university after COVID, and the company was doing a big push with Lenovo's Legion line. Yeah, it was the Legion line. And specifically for esports, because it was a completely virtual experience. People could still have that team-based strategy and team-based varsity level experience of bringing people together and, that kind of experience while in a virtual setting. So then that's where I really got my start as far as like esports overall. And I found out that Pittsburgh had an esports organization located here. And I was like, look, I'll do anything. Like, I'd love to work for you guys in any capacity. I'm local. I can make it if you guys want to do in-person events. I have suggestions of what cool stuff we could do. And then, thank God they hired me. So, yeah, kind of ease into it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, loving the Space Marine reference as well. I've put endless hours into that game myself.
Yeah, are you excited for the next one?
Oh, very good trailer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The it's so interesting having like the Tyranids, because we went, you go into work like the first game, and it was like orcs, which is like obviously, but like they could honestly, like, instead of doing that story, they could have just told the story of Hell's Reach. That would have been like all is lost kind of mentality. Only one guy lives, that kind of thing. But this is a really cool story as well. And plus, they got some real cool star power. The voice actor used to be on Vikings, so everybody in my age group already knows like the cast. It's like star-studded cast here, people. Okay, this is pretty cool.
Yes, indeed. And so esports as an industry, I mean, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's relatively young as an industry, but it's also made incredible progress pretty damn quickly, actually. So what else kind of sets it apart from other industries, and where do you think it's going to go in the future without giving too much away?
I think that the first and foremost, I think that its accessibility as a form of entertainment and the interactivity that the fans have with it is next to none. Constantly, it's not every day that you see, different teams that go into the World Cup. It's not like they're live streaming their practices. It's not like the fans can watch the practices. It's not like the fans can like see into the locker room and hear the locker room talk. Like in esports, you're very much able to look at every level of the experience and engage with it. You can comment, you can be a part of the live Twitch chat, and you can converse openly sometimes with these like influencers that you follow. And then the overall esports tournaments themselves, they are like they don't restrict on overall like attendance. So like anybody can go in attendance, and a lot of the times you're going to see the influencers that you follow in attendance as well. So it's accessibility and the ability of the audience to engage with these influencers and these players on a personal level is what has allowed it to really flourish. And the fact that you can watch this as a form of entertainment on any kind of device has also allowed you to, again, bring people together. You can watch it with your friends. You can go on Discord and you could have, like, you can bring your friends on your server and you can all watch it from when you're at home. I think that is really, really helpful in the overall ability of esports being able to grow. And it's been able to grow across the world, and it's growing even faster in regions such as Asia, right? Now, as far as where it's going, I don't really think it's going, since with Apple Vision Pro, this is a current event. I don't think it's really going in the direction of, hey, let's all get on our headsets and watch this yet. Okay, so now I was ranting a little bit about this yesterday. I just want to rant on a little bit more. I'm not going to make my friend group each pay $3,500 to, watch the same form of entertainment as me. I'm nicer than that. And also, I don't know if you've ever, played on like any games on VR. You can't look away. So it very easily can you get nauseous, 30, 45 minutes in, and you get weirdly sweaty. I don't know if any of the viewers at home agree with me there. Like I played and I was like, all right, well, 20 minutes in, I've never sweat this much before when playing video games. And I walk on the treadmill while I'm playing games, and I still, whatever. Anyway, so we are not at the level yet where we can do Ready Player One style VR combat with our friends. But one place that I really see further growing is alternative viewing platforms such as Discord. I think a lot of people are going to be porting over to their fans, influencers, players. I think they're all going to be porting over to Discord itself because first off, it is the most advanced and easily accessible metaverse experience available to the public. It's one of the reasons that a lot of these other virtual reality companies are losing out marketing dollars on their overall metaverse strategy because we're not, again, just like I said, we're not always in VR headsets whenever we go to work, right? It starts in, I start a chat with a couple of my friends, and then we go from there into, okay, I got a little bit more time. You want to watch a video together? Okay, I got a little bit more time. You want to game together, right? And it starts with with that. And then you can go in and you can be like, hey, we can watch this streamer for a little bit. I'll share screen. Or I think, let me drop the link and then we can all watch it together. And I think because of the interactivity from that point, more and more influencers are going to be, hey, join my Discord. We'll have an AMA session on Thursday. And then on Friday, we'll play together. And I think that technology specifically has brought the overall gaming and esports ecosystem to a wider level to include that grassroots level of experience where you're able to game with your friends. Oh man, I'm getting shouted out by the influencer that I follow while I'm playing against them. So I think esports and gaming overall is going to shift more to Discord overall. Especially with some of the controversy surrounding Twitch right now, who knows where that's going to go. So I think more and more organizations are going to try to get in touch with the people. And and I'm biased. That's where I want it to go as well. So that's one of the things that my company's working towards.
Interesting stuff. Yeah. A lot of comments I can make there. I mean, first of all, on the VR thing, yes, I have had similar experience. Particularly, I think, with the games with the running and shooting ones, where a lot of them, like, there's a couple I've played. One of them, it was one of the more sort of old style on rails one, and I found that so much worse because you couldn't control like your lateral movement, and that such a disconnect between what you're seeing and what you're feeling, and and then whereas the other ones where you have a bit more control, I find those slightly easier to deal with.
Also, movement in game is a little bit tough too because a lot of games will either choose between one of two options. They'll do the teleportation technique where you point and you go to there, or they'll use the overall analog stick Actually, well, there's three options. We'll get to the third. There's the analog stick, but then what you're seeing is all of it move towards you and all of the scenery move around, which is tough for your brain to process if you're not used to it. And then number three, there's a couple of different companies that do omnidirectional treadmills that allow you to hook in and you're able to like run around and stuff in game. Now, here's the thing. It's not real running. You have to wear a specific slides on your shoes. And you basically like, it's like wearing furniture slides and then going to like the mall and going on that tiled floor. It's hard. It's hard to do. Like, so, you know, VR is a little bit further away from the overall immersion of the gaming experience, more so than they like to admit.
No, that's good. I had seen a couple of those treadmill ones on like the crowdfunding sites, but I didn't know you had to wear special shoes. That's interesting.
Yeah, Virtuix is, shout out to them. They're doing amazing stuff. It allows you to also like crouch in game as well. So as far as like the whole stealth mechanic, especially in the game, I always gravitate towards Skyrim because, you know, they were one of the most open about the whole VR experience in game. And, you know, being able to crouch in game and go forward like that, it's like, okay, on the surface, it's pretty cool. But then you got to wear furniture slides to do it. And you're running on a tread. I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough racket, and I'm not completely against it. It's just like I'm slow to adapt to it, and that's probably where I'm at with that.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting though. I hadn't realised that, because it's a shame because that felt like it solved the problem. You could get the best of both worlds.
I don't know if you've seen it. It's like this. It's like the platform where you're running on is like this.
Okay? Yeah, I've not seen it in person.
No, you want it to be a little bit like bigger. I feel like. But then you worry about it's just like, well, first off, it's one of the first VR omnidirectional treadmills that are available for private sale. That's awesome. But you got to worry about how much space is this taking up. The thing is not movable, man. It's like a tread. I don't know. An oven is more movable than this thing. I feel you're like, I don't know if you ever had to get your oven or your dishwasher replaced, but like, it's like, all right, what do we grab on? There's nothing to grab on. Okay, cool. We're going to like damage the floors as we move it about. But this thing is like this, and then the base of it is like this. So you're like, okay, I guess I'll put it in a corner. Oh, wait, I can go around like this. So I'm going to be like against the wall. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose putting it on wheels so you can stow it away somewhere is probably a bit self-defeating, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm just like, well, that kind of takes away from the experience, you know?
Yeah.
I want it to look giant and complicated. That's the whole reason that I play video games.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah, and I mean, as for the motion sickness thing, it makes me think of. I mean, for pilots and aviation, they had to solve that problem decades ago because if you're flying in zero visibility, you don't really have much of a sense when you're in the air of which way is up anymore, and then that makes the motion sickness worse. So what they had was like these little lights that were on either side of the cockpit, which give you visual cues.
Yeah,
they actually found that solved the problem. So maybe there's something similar in the works for the.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, man. I mean, I think this is like when I would play, it was. I spent a summer in VR because at my university they had like a VR lab that you could go to, and for a summer I just went every day, and you increase your tolerance, but I mean. You can't look away from the screen. Like I can play games, I can look at you, I can look away from the screen if I want to, but in there if you close your eyes, you can still feel like the overall the data trying to process in your face, and I'm just like, okay. It's cool for the first 45 minutes.
No, I'm with you there. It's the peripheral vision, that's the bit I find the most off-putting because there isn't any.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Yeah. Anyway, we mustn't talk about that for the whole episode, much as I like.
That's all
right. So what are the toughest challenges then you face in managing an esports team?
I think that constantly, before, what I thought was the most challenging thing was talking to people about this and making sure that they don't automatically write it off as, oh, well, this is like a younger audience group that we don't want to be a part of or something like that. That's what I used to think it was. Now more brands are becoming accustomed to the simple fact that gaming overall and esports fans overall are part of the 18 to 35 category. So there's a majority of them are 21 and up, and it's more of a adult oriented pastime, right? Because more people are, once they have the income, they're able to spend it on, optimizing their overall their gaming space. They'll pay for the lights, they'll pay for the gear. So that's what I used to think. I think now what I think is the toughest part for me as kind of like a partnerships manager over here is like constantly trying to see and manage what the connection is for a brand if they want to get into this space. So I'll give you an example. If they're like a trash company, or they're a fertilizer company, or they're like a B2B strictly like metals and special metals group that's trying to get into esports, right? So it's framing and creating the overall the gaming and esports campaign for those specialized groups that are not consumer facing, I think sometimes is the biggest part. And what's cool about esports is that it's a really good B2C and B2B visibility tool and industry overall, because we utilize different data collection platforms, and we were the first one to use this one brand called Zoom, I believe it is. And now a bunch of different organizations, esports and gaming organizations, utilize their service to track their campaigns as well. So we were one of the first ones to bring them into the gaming and esports space overall, right? So I think overall the crafting of campaigns to make sure that it's not a simple logo placement on the screen, and in fact the overall campaign is something authentic and makes the viewers feel good about the experience, so that if they feel good about the experience, then that brand that provided the experience is top of mind whenever they go to make that purchasing decision. So to answer your question, the most challenging part for me is making the overall campaigns and making sure they're truly unique and authentic, right? A lot of people try to say like authentic this and that, and it's an overused word, but I like to make sure that it's truly fits that category of verbiage.
Fair, yeah. And we've already spoken a bit about VR and some of the other new technologies, but I mean, esports, the clue is in the name, isn't it? It's always going to be tech driven, isn't it? It's going to be presumably at the forefront of new technologies.
Yeah. Keeping in mind, like one of the things that I hope to see is XR ability, so like extended reality, which is easy to use. There are tons of different extended reality glasses that you can purchase, and it just appears as a pair of glasses that are connected to a little battery pack that can fit under the collar of a shirt, and you have a 168-inch monitor available to you and only you. And it can connect to your, all your different, streaming accounts and your Xbox and your PlayStation accounts. So you can game anywhere. It can connect to your Nintendo Switch. So you're on a flight, you can game, you can work on whatever you need to work on, right? So I think that is some of the interesting technology that's coming into the overall tech space that can port over to gaming and esports in, again, an authentic way. Because why, like, if I'm over at grandma's house, why would I try to game on this giant TV when I could I could do this instead, right? Again, there's something to be said about the overall sharing of the experience, bringing people together, and if I have extended reality glasses, nothing beats a TV where we're all able to game split screen 1v4, and we're able to just game that experience. But so we'll see how that goes as the technology becomes more. It's already accessible. Now you got to bring the price point down so more people can enjoy it, right?
Yeah, well, that's the real challenge, isn't it?
Exactly.
Sadly, out of all of our hands, I suspect. But
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I like some of the augmented reality ideas as well, which is very similar to what you're talking about. It'd be good to see those come into the gaming world. The moment you see them in engineering things, and I saw one for water pipes and things, and tracking utilities under roads and all that kind of thing.
But here's the thing: you never know who's watching, and that's something you never know, because I'll get communications. It's like, hey, I work in this industry, but my son or my daughter, she's a really big gamer, and I'd love to see what we can do together. And it's just like, oh, okay, cool. and in those spaces, it's just like, you never know if like, oh, well, my dad is an executive at an oil and gas company and he requires these kinds of like deep sea tubing and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, there, boom, you have that there, right? So you never know who's watching, and there's connections to be made everywhere at every level. Doesn't matter who's watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with such a rapid pace of change when it comes to the technology, how do you keep up with that?
It's very helpful to have, okay, so first off, we're at a first name basis with a lot of the developers. So the developers that we run events for or compete in their games, in esports overall, the governing bodies for different gaming titles are going to be the gaming developers themselves, right? And from there, we have first name. We're on a first name basis, and we're friends with the developers. So the people who are actually developing that technology, they're going to be telling us about it. We also have friends at a lot of different gaming news organizations and tech news organizations who are able to give us the readout on what overall is going on in the space and how it could positively or negatively impact us. And I think third is that we have several different micro influencers under our belt, and we are also in communication with the micro influencers that have to stay up to date. So we're hearing about a lot of the different news and developments in this overall industry from many different sources at every different level. So that's what allows us to stay up to date and making like cool, different decisions based off of this information. We're able to pivot and make sure that we're constantly, moving forward. And that's mainly how we stay up to date with a lot of this.
And you mentioned earlier you're developing technology yourselves as well, but I won't ask in case it's secret.
So basically, I won't go into crazy detail, but what I will tell you is this: it's technology that allows you to boot up in game straight from a communication software, and allows you to boot right in game with you and your friends at the push of a button. Now and with it there will be no more. Oh man, I got to get paired with my friends. Oh, I'm at a different rank than them. It's going to surpass the ranking process, and it also is making gaming safe again because you're going to be gaming with people that are already vetted, and it's going to remove the possibility of gaming with strangers. So it makes gaming safer for everybody that wants to engage with it. It also will allow developers to launch their games directly to the fans instead of having to go through a third party, and it's truly disruptive technology that I'm really excited to bring about. I was just told by my boss and my other boss that I'm not supposed to talk about, specific details about it last week, but this is a new week. So, we'll see. No, it's kidding. But yeah, so that's kind of the technology we're developing. Again, bringing people together, and the overall gaming experience is at the forefront of everything that we're doing, because when you provide for the fans provide for you as well. That really, I mean, I didn't go into such strict detail, but that gives you an overall, this is what the technology is.
I'm going to date myself here by telling you the story of my first online gaming experience waiting for the dial-up modem.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, anything beyond that for me is amazing progress. So being able to do it at the click of a button and almost instantly is, I never would have dreamed it.
Yeah, so James O'Connor, who was he's our president and founder. He was a professional player in the CSGO space, and he became a coach, and he was the first one to bring a North American team to the World Finals. And he was the first one to do it in CSGO. And he would run different servers for the professional players when he was just on the come up. And he's just like, look, I just want to play with you guys. I know you guys, you all pay for the server, like this kind of thing. And he would talk about he would talk to me about, he's like, yeah, I had to let it dial up. And, that's usually I would go through that process so other people didn't have to. So yeah, I understand. Do you still remember what VHS tapes are too? I feel like I'm one of the last people that understands what those are.
Yes,
Timed rewind, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I grew up before the DVD, so yes, fully aware of the old VHS.
Yeah, it's hard to get gaming discs now. They're like, you want a disc to put into the disc hole in your console? And I'm like, yeah, that's weird. And they're like, well, why don't you just download it on there? I'm like, that's going to take forever. I can just use the disc. There's like, well, why?
Well, you say that, but you can't, can you? Because even when you find the disc, you put it in, and you still have to wait for the uploads and the updates. And
it was a lot. That's one of the reasons why I still keep for anybody at home, Star Wars: The Force Unleashed for the Xbox. Yeah, really. I mean, fun game, and I didn't have to download anything. I could just put it right in. So like,
wasn't true with the sequel though.
No, the sequel
quite badly broken, and many patches I remember on release day.
Yeah, there was like, and it was like a 5-minute game. Now it was the gameplay was pretty cool. It was a little bit too easy in comparison. Like, because I remember in the first game, I was dying. Like, I think the one I died the most on was probably when you went back to Felucia, so your second mission on Felucia, or when you go to Kashyyyk, and there's all these different enemies that are like, I'm like, there's no way clones and stormtroopers are supposed to, okay, well, they're stormtroopers, but there's no way they're supposed to be this strong. I'm like, if they all had these special exosuits, I'd be screwed. So, like, but yeah, really good game. A lot of really good memories there.
Yeah, it's a good game. Better move on to some more questions before I run out of time. So, one more question about esports then. So, the players. What does it take to support them, and do they compare to perhaps sports personalities in other sports or not?
You mean like, are they divas or not? Yeah, sometimes they are.
Comment?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they are. Sometimes they do have like more lofty expectations of treatment, or they have lofty expectations of how they're going to get to a location or be treated at their location, right? So I think one of the best ways that we're able to support them is by not necessarily enforcing, but encouraging positive habits, right? And encouraging the overall balance, making sure that they are indeed, their nutrition and their fitness are toned in so that their receptors are constantly firing, that they have overall, they're able to move better in game. Overall esports performance, when nutrition is dialed in and your fitness, you have a regimen down, your sleep is dialed in, you have all these those positive habits, your overall performance in game is going to drastically increase. And that's something that we try to look at over on our side. Is, okay, how do we balance in the training, the scrimmages, and the overall performance at the competitions, and while making sure that they are constantly getting an influx of these more positive reinforced habits. So that's number one. Then number two, we try to look at overall mastering the crucial skills necessary to different games, right? We used to have an Apex Legends team. One of the things that we would really try to instill to them is the skill of movement. So movement in a lot of first-person shooters is paramount. It's one of the best ways that you're able to not die, or you're able to get the upper hand on other enemies. Movement there versus in Rocket League is a little bit different, but you could argue that it's the movement has to hone in more on in-air skills. So how you maneuver your vehicle when it's in air in order to like shoot, make sure you make the goal and you have control of the ball in game. So honing in on the coach's perspective, honing in on the various skills necessarily in those after forming those positive habits, and then making sure that if they do wrong, they know where they did wrong. So a lot of analysis of your performance versus the other team's performance in game, analyzing those and developing strategy based off of those. That's kind of like where a lot of the training goes on the esports like athlete side. And I think that as people become more aware to the fact that the professional career for a lot of esports players is a little bit shorter, right? You're getting people when they're in their late teens, like in your 18 and early 20s, and if they don't develop a lot of these good habits, their career could be as short as 3 to 6 years. They can be left being very burnt out at the end of it, not wanting to return back to the industry or not wanting to return to gaming in that title overall. And when again, I keep harping on the diet and the overall health and wellness habits. If you dial into those and you make sure that you're focusing in on things you can control and things you can learn from, you're going to be able to experience a longer career. Perhaps when you retire from professional play, you're able to pour it off into streaming, put more effort into your streaming and building your overall following on the influencer side. Or you can take some of those skills and port over. I've seen this a lot of times. Go over to a corporate position at different tech companies where you're consulting and you're heading all their esports efforts because you bring, 8 to 10 years of overall experience in competitive esports play, which is a very valuable skill set and valuable viewpoint to have, going into the tech space. So kind of gives you a rundown of overall esports players as a whole.
There's probably quite a few good lessons there, regardless of your career path, to be honest. Look after yourself, look after the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I tell a lot of people. It's like when you get in, like focusing on the things that you can control. I can control when I go to bed. I can control when I wake up in the morning. I can control how clean I keep my space. Those are things that I encourage people to do. It allows for those building up those small wins throughout the day and making sure that you're on top of your game as much as you can be. Yeah. No pun intended from the game.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about leadership. So first question on that one. What is the biggest leadership lesson that you've learned in your career so far?
It's got to be asking questions, making sure that you do your own research to the best of your ability, but that when you get into that meeting or you get into the call, you get in contact with that person that you have those questions, you are making sure that you are able to be, for lack of a better term, the idiot in the group for those first like two or 3 seconds after you ask the question, because temporary discomfort for long-term value. And I think that being able to ask those questions right then and there and having the courage to do so and surrounding yourself with people who are a little bit smarter than you in certain topics is very, very helpful. Very, very helpful for your overall building your leadership. And that's probably the number one skill that I'd say.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. It reminds me, I had a teacher when I was a kid and instilled in me very early on, ask the question and don't be afraid of looking stupid, because 9 times out of 10, somebody else in the room has the same question, but they're too scared to ask it.
Yeah. Like in math, like people are going to have questions all the time, but people don't ask questions. So then everybody loses out, right? Or you're one of the few people that do ask the questions, or you just stay in after class. Now, imagine if you develop that habit early on of not being able to face that very, very small inconvenience or that very small fear. And imagine if you take that to your adulthood, how detrimental that can be to your overall success as a human being in all aspects, It's like, how would you ever order food at a restaurant if you were constantly afraid? It's like that. Now I see people who are just like, I'm scared of ordering. So that's why I like going to restaurants where there's a tablet where I can order online. I'm like, dude, I'll just go up and ask the guy. Or like, it's not that hard. Like but we're experiencing more and more people are just too afraid of that very small infinitesimal interaction with somebody on any space, whether it matters in the grand scheme of things or not. It's like, I actually, this is the wrong order, but I'm not going to say anything. It's like, yeah, and see how far you get with that. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, the second one is a very British thing, actually. We do that a lot over here. It's like, It's fine, thank you. And then the waiter will come around and ask, or the waitress, and they'll be like, everything okay with your food? Yeah, it was fine, yeah. I'm allergic to 3 of the ingredients. You could have killed me, but it's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, it's just like, this is not at all what I and I'm pretty sure we're at the wrong restaurant too. So
yeah,
that was great.
Oh, you got to laugh about that stuff though.
You have to laugh after the fact, but at a certain point, you just got to be like, man, enough's enough. Like, come on,
Yeah, I guess there's a question of the stakes as well. Like, how important is it to you to get it right?
I think,
Particularly, I mean, if it's an environment where you're in a leadership position and there's knowledge that you have to have and the business might depend upon it, I mean, it's your responsibility to ask the questions in that situation. If you don't do it, you're not doing your job, frankly. So that's a very different kettle of fish, I think. But there we go. Yeah. Okay, so what do you think then is the biggest mistake that a leader can make?
I think that the biggest mistake is not understanding where people on their side or the people that they're meeting from, where they're coming from. And I think that it's very helpful to get people's viewpoints or overall get their and value their overall input on the subject matter in question, whether it's, you want to consult a team on a strategic initiative that is your idea, but you're not willing to really listen to their input because you're so invested in that. And you're just really looking for validation and you're just looking for yes men. I think that overall making sure that you value the opinion of people that are on your team and making sure that you keep in mind their suggestions are coming out of professional curiosity, and also making sure that the overall team wins as opposed to just one person gets their ego boosted. I think that's more so a big mistake that I see in some leaders.
Yeah, definitely. It's one that comes up fairly often as well. I think it's similar to the point about asking questions, isn't it, really? Mm-hmm. If you're not asking the question from your people, and your people are, at the end of the day, your organization, without them, nothing's going to get done anyway. Yeah. And they're the ones who are going to see the impact of most of these sort of grand strategies that might be floating around in your head. So if you don't get their input on it, A, they're not going to implement it, and B, it's probably not going to work.
Exactly. And this is and then the person whose idea it was that was scared that anyone who was going to say no or give him criticism, he's going to be like, well, why didn't this work out? It's like, it was never meant to work out. It wasn't the right time, or these factors, you didn't think of these factors. It's like,
Yeah, it's too late, isn't it? If you ask the question after it's already been done.
Yeah. Another mistake.
Yeah, definitely. What's been your best experience then of being led?
My best experience of being led was being led by the founder, James, and then also two of our other teammates who had a lot of experience collectively of professional esports, in professional esports as competitive players and coaching, as well as a lot of experience in partnerships. And I think learning from them the overall mindset of going into the outreach or the planning of campaigns, that was probably the best experience I had, because when I started to take in their advice and truly really take in this professional advice that had been accumulated over decades of experience from three separate executives, I really started to experience a lot of not only positive feedback from clients, but also a lot of KPI and metrics that I follow for myself were increasing it up, and were just increasing, right? So I was experiencing greater callbacks, a lot more positive reception to campaign development. And I think that listening to people who were truly qualified, and that's not easy. Sometimes you're going to be getting trained by someone who's not very experienced, but they're just saying stuff that sounds good, or that sounds like it would be good advice hypothetically, but they don't really have any experience of that. That's something that I have experienced in, previous employment. And I think that you have to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people. And in this case, I was able to surround myself with three individuals that had a lot of really good experience that was able to help me. So I think that was probably one of my best experiences with leadership overall.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And it's still working with them today, I guess.
Yeah, one of them's over in. So my organization. Well, again, I had mentioned that one of our strategic partners was Wiz Khalifa and his Taylor Gang, and we're running every year we run his Wiz and Friends live stream where we blend together like rap and fashion and gaming in like one big live stream event. And one of our guys is headed over to LA. I think he just got in last night. And we were talking this morning just about the goings on of the week. And another one of those people, I was just on a call with him as well this morning. So and we were developing out like more of a further down the road monthly campaign that we're going to be experimenting with. And so yeah, still working with all those guys.
Which is always the first sign that it's good, that it's a productive relationship, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise you would have walked away by now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, what advice then would you offer to perhaps an aspiring manager, someone looking to get into the esports industry?
Mm-hmm. I would say take inventory of your current skill set and make sure you have down what you can bring to the overall organization. Understand that sporting organizations do not hire fans. They don't hire fans. It's very tiresome for them. So you want to be a fan of esports and gaming as a whole and and understand the field, but you don't necessarily want to be like a crazy, not trying to pun Fnatic, because Fnatic is one of the biggest esports teams over where you're located, but you don't want to be a crazy fanatic about that team that you're applying to, and I think those two pieces. And then I would think of number 3, developing your overall skill set as it pertains to esports and gaming. Try to learn about the field. Try to perhaps network at different gaming conventions. Sometimes they can be bigger or smaller. Not everybody is going to have like E3 happening right next door, right? But I think it's very helpful to really get your name in the door, is to network on a person-to-person level. And that's something that person-to-person communication is something that is king in all industries, right? Everybody values that human interaction when they're going into perhaps the hiring process or into a strategic initiative. That's probably what I would say. So I would say, take inventory of your skills, your current skill set, try to grow it as much as possible as you can. Become educated on the space that you are applying into. It doesn't have to be esports and gaming. It could be heating and oil and gas or something like that. But then also try to network as much as you can in that space. And whether it's it's not always in person. Sometimes it also can be virtual as well. There's going to be a lot of different virtual seminars that are hosted all over the place. LinkedIn has like 5 or 10 of them a day. I've attended a few of them as they pertain to esports, and I've gotten a lot of really cool connections from them and got a really cool calls. So that would be my overall. And then lastly, it would be the process of follow-ups and making sure that person that you're talking to, make sure that they feel wanted. Don't give up on it just because they didn't email you back after the one time that you sent an email at like 7:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. That like don't give up on it.
Yeah. Again, good advice for any industry, I suspect. Except maybe for the fan piece. I'm not so sure about that. I think there's a lot of companies out there who, if they find someone who's a fanatic about what they do, they'll probably see them as quite a good hire. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So when we've like, when I worked with people at different sporting events and sporting organizations here in Pittsburgh, and they told me, they're just like, we try not to hire crazy fans, but that's what they told me. I guess every organization is different, but that's just what they told me.
Yeah, I mean, the passion has to be good, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, of course. That's why I say, hey, be a fan of the field. Make sure that you understand what's going on so that you can talk. There's still a lot of that mentality in meetings. It's like, oh, you hear about, oh, you're from this area. Oh, did you hear about how your team is doing? Oh, and like that's a good conversation, right? So like, I think it's being able to play the room and making sure that you're able to converse openly with the people that you're meeting with about topics as they pertain to their overall interest level. So again, and that goes with anybody. It's like you meet a new friend group or you're getting introduced to new friends. It's like, oh, you've played again, and some of the circles I'm in, like, oh, you've played this game before. Oh, what did you think of that game? I liked this game mechanic in it. Like I was just talking to some guys about Vanquish. I don't know if you remember that game at all, but that was from the same studio that made Bayonetta and like Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance and stuff like that. And we were talking repeatedly, and I didn't know anybody knew that game because I thought it was purely a fundraising tool because that studio was just using it as a fundraising tool for the next Metal Gear games, for the next Bayonettas, right? But it had a lot of really cool movement mechanics in it that I haven't seen in other games, right? So that's like one conversation piece. That's pretty restricted to gaming. But let's say if you're going into because I was just over at the Pittsburgh Pro, which is one of the largest bodybuilding events here on the East Coast in the United States. And I was talking to them I did talk to them, some of them about gaming actually, but I was talking to some of them about the performances of like certain bodybuilders that going into November, which is when the Mr. Olympia is going to be, so kind of being able to try to dial in your conversation topics to fit the room is probably the fifth piece of advice that I can give for somebody going into networking or interviews in general,
Yeah. Well, there you go, listeners. Plenty of good free advice there.
Yeah.
Leadership Heroes.
Okay, well, last question. I call this one Leadership Heroes. So if you had to pick any person who, they could be alive or dead, past, present, real or fictional, who in your opinion would perfectly embody leadership, who would that person be and why?
Okay. Now, if it's me answering this question, it's got to be Optimus Prime. But if it's like me answering this question on a professional scale, it'd probably be Alexander the Great, because Optimus Prime encompasses all of those unattainable levels of power mixed with compassion, mixed with overall like intellect and strategy. But on the more realistic side, you have Alexander the Great, who was open to experiencing injury and failing alongside his soldiers. He had broken bones and battle scars, just like that of his soldiers. He led from the front as opposed to leading from the back. And that's something that I truly think a lot of people can learn from as a leader. Even if you do fail, you fail alongside all the people that trusted your opinion. And if you were right down there in the trenches with them, so to speak, I think it's very helpful for overall team morale as well as just relatability overall. And they're more likely to follow you into those darker, experimental strategic projects that may not pan out, but it might be a last-ditch effort for this campaign or something like that, right? So I think those two, to not to double dip, but one fictional, one real.
I'm slightly disappointed you didn't choose a video game character, but
Optimus Prime is a video game character.
Cartoon film, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Captain. I mean, you could say Captain Titus, obviously, but but he was touched by the warp, so I don't think he should be reinstated. Nobody who's been touched by chaos should be trusted.
No.
Especially with the lion back, we need to make sure we take a greater stance against the heretic.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's some political things around the whole Imperium of Man and whether they're actually good or evil.
Well, I mean, they're the de facto good guys, right?
Are they though?
No, nobody is. I mean, nobody is. Not even the Tau. Nobody plays as them. Let alone, you could also say the Dark Eldar are the good guys, right? No,
from a certain point of view. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. From a certain point of view, right? So I guess everybody. I mean, technically, the orcs are the only good guys because they only have one. They just want to fight you, and that's okay. That's why they hate chaos, because chaos took away from their best opponents in the Imperium of Man. Good enemies is hard to find, right? I think that's the quote.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. Yeah, the orcs are certainly the most authentic, aren't they? They say what they mean and they do what they say.
Yeah. And they also they have it's crazy the concept of evolution and de-evolution in the space of Warhammer, right? And if the orcs were still as they were in those first wars in the beginnings of the universe, they would probably be the leading figure in overall the Imperium, like the space of Warhammer 40K, just because manifestation. If your manifestation, there's the spiritual people nowadays. It's like you gotta manifest all your goals and all this kind of stuff. But with orcs, it's like, yeah, this hunk of metal is a gun because I said it was, and we're able to fly because I said we were able to fly with this hunk of junk right here that I just kind of duct taped together, right? So if that was more like honed in, that'd be a very potent force. You know?
Yes, yeah, and Alexander the Great as well, I think, is quite a good pick for all the reasons that you've given. But I think he's such an interesting figure historically as well. The man he achieved in such a relatively short life as well, and died quite young even for the time. And it makes you wonder as well, like if he survived longer, what would the world look like today? And
would he have wanted to survive longer? And you know, you could argue like perhaps he would have. Perhaps he challenged fate and he challenged destiny. Like, yes, if you do go to this area, you will die here. But he still challenged it, and even though the outcome was stated, and he was somebody who lived by fate, right? So he felt in his heart that he was fated to, as a demigod, to go out and conquer and conquer and conquer. So I think it would have been cool to go back and, you know, move the arrow, that because nobody really knows how he died, right? And to move that arrow or to put that wine away from him more so he didn't drink as much, or to move that arrow that shot him over more so it grazed his shoulder, as opposed to, like, you know, hit him in like the vital organs. You know, it would have been cool to see if he did conquer Asia and, you know, incorporated more elephants into his armies as opposed to just kept fighting them. That would be terrifying. Oh my God. Can you imagine if you're just like, I don't know what that animal over there is, but it's massive and it's giant and gray.
Yeah,
so scary.
Be quite scary, wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it seems I was reading an article about him a few weeks back, speculating on the cause of his death ultimately, and there's had all these medical experts commenting on it, and the prevailing theory now seems to be that it was some sort of cancer.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So who knows?
I mean, that's interesting. I had grown up with everybody just saying, "Oh, it could be this or that," but I didn't even hear about that. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because obviously the contemporary accounts, and it's so far back in history, you don't know how trustworthy any of these sources are. But
yeah,
a lot of what was written like hundreds of years later as well. So yeah, but it was either that or some sort of poison, but they're not sure what. So who knows? Who knows?
Well, let's go back and find out, man.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think if time travel existed, I don't think that would be top of my list, if I'm honest.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay. I mean, dude, it's just, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I'd like to, I don't know where I'd go back. That's a good question. Because there's so many places I want to go. You know?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I don't know if I'd want to go back. I might want to go forward if that was possible.
Oh, yeah.
More interesting, but.
Yeah.
Back to the Future 2 was way better, right? Like,
okay.
Flying cars, man. I want to see flying cars.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, that's been a really entertaining chat. So last thing, if any of the listeners would like to learn more about esports, about yourself and what you get up to, would you like to point towards a website or profile? Or?
pks.gg/NACL. My organization, as I've talked about, we try to be a leader in the space. We're running the entirety of the North America Valorant Challengers League. And if you look at esports overall, what gaming title really hops out? Valorant really hops out as the top esport right now. So that's probably the biggest thing that we're doing right now. I'd highly encourage everybody, even if they don't really like video games or just kind of get acquainted to what sponsorship looks like in esports or what that kind of looks like, highly recommend you check that out, pks.gg/NACL. There you can find all the tournament highlights of what's been going on. We're going to be starting the finals in the Ascension tournament pretty soon. And we're also going to be running it for next year as well. So definitely check us out. Follow us on some of the socials. If you go on our Instagram, you'll see I'm in some of their videos too. So, you know, being in front of the camera isn't always my strong suit, but sometimes, you know, sometimes I do okay. But I think probably those two is where I direct people. And then number 3, try to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always looking to discuss opportunities with you guys and just overall make sure that I try to put a positive face on esports and gaming. So if you guys have questions, feel free to connect with me and message me.
Awesome. plenty of options then. So I'll put some links in the episode description so everyone can find that easily. Well, Liam, it's been really entertaining talking to you today. Thank you for humouring all my points of view on video games. And yeah, thanks for your time.
Awesome. David, thank you so much.
Thank you again, Liam, for your time today. Great conversation. Listeners, I hope you don't mind us talking about video games in such detail. I'm sure some of you have lost interest there, but nevertheless, there are still some very useful leadership and career lessons in there as well. So I hope you've been able to take something from it either way. If you would like to learn more about esports, about Liam and what he does, please do visit the website address in the episode description. If you're looking for some leadership support, if you are struggling as a new manager and you are in one of these tech-driven industries like esports, then Leading with Integrity can help. It is built with you in mind. We are here to help you be a better, more effective and people-driven leader. So do please reach out. There is a website address for you to visit. There's some buttons on the website. There's a link in the episode description. Please do check out the Integrity Leaders Community Program. It's a very low-cost way of dipping a toe in the water and learning a bit more about leading with integrity. So the website is www.leadernotaboss.com. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you'll join us again next week. And in the meantime, remember, be a leader, not a boss.